to position behind him and initiate an enforcement stop.
And as you accelerated to reach the vehicle, what, if anything, did you see?
Well, I maintain a visual the entire time. If
You sound like
if
you're
there's
lying.
something else that I don't know offhand, may I reference my report? If there's something else that I did notice, I may have included in my report that I don't remember at this exact moment.
Well, I apologize. Let me ask a more specific question. As you and your partner began to follow the vehicle, who was driving, you or was it your partner?
I was driving.
And how long did it take for you to catch up to the vehicle that you had made the speed estimation of?
I would guess 30 to 45 seconds.
As you were following the vehicle, at some point did you notice any lane changes without a signal being used ahead of time?
Yes, sir. Yes. Further on that, I believe after I initiated enforcement stop, because I noticed many things once I activated the code 3 lights and siren. There's lots of other things that happened, but sequentially, that was after I initiated the stop.
Thank you for clearing that up. So you'd estimated 30 to 45 seconds to catch up to the vehicle.
Mm-hmm.
What's the next thing that happened during this interaction?
So the next step, I activated my code 3 lights and siren to initiate an enforcement stop. And the vehicle appeared to yield as he merged towards the right, and then suddenly he rapidly accelerated back to over 100 miles per hour.
At this time, on State Route 57, were there other cars on the road?
Yes.
Are you able to describe what the traffic of other cars was like in terms of number of other vehicles on the road?
I remember it pretty clearly. I would describe it as light to moderate.
And in terms of the enforcement stop that you referenced, do you have emergency red lights attached to your patrol vehicle?
I do.
And in initiating that enforcement stop, are any of the emergency lights a solid red light?
Yes, and I check them before and after shift to make sure they're functioning properly.
Okay. Was that red light pointing towards the front of your vehicle?
Yes.
And just based on the check that you had done, is this a red light that's visible from 1,000 feet away?
Yes.
You'd also mentioned the use of a siren. Can you explain why the siren was used in addition to the red light when you were initiating the enforcement stop?
Personally, I use the siren every time I initiate an enforcement stop to some extent. Sometimes chirping, sometimes if the vehicle doesn't appear to be slowing, I do it in order to catch their attention in case they have headphones in or blasting their music and they're looking straight forward, not in their rear views. So I do it in an attempt to get the driver's attention that I'm trying to stop.
Thank you. And you had also mentioned the state of the traffic on the road.
Yes.
Was there any concern regarding the other cars around at the time that you initiated the enforcement stop with the red lights and the sirens?
Absolutely. At points, he accelerated over. I believe I was at 110 miles per hour on my speedometer, and the Ford Fusion was increasing in distance, so it was going faster than I was, and he was making lane changes. Actually, I believe he changed lanes to the left and activated his right turn signal, so he's making very unsafe lane changes.
At some point, or let me ask you this: at this portion of State Route 57, do you recall, if you can remember, how many lanes are on the side of the freeway that you were traveling?
I can, but it varies at which point that we're on the 57. Lanes are added and subtracted as you continue north. At which point, I guess I would ask.
Okay, and let me just follow up with this. Was this a portion of Highway 57 that had a carpool lane?
Yes.
Okay, what's that?
Carpool lane is a lane designated for more than one occupant in the car to encourage carpooling. It's enforced by black and white regulatory signs and the diamond mark in the lane. It's like I said, it's intended for carpool use to reduce traffic, and signs say that the only people to use that lane are vehicles with multiple occupants.
Thank you. And is this portion of Highway 57 part of the state route that has that marked carpool lane?
Yes.
Okay. And let me just going sequentially again. After initiating the lights and the sirens, what if anything did you see next?
Recapping, or after what we're at.
Going in order. If after the lights and the sirens, was that the point where you
Going in
described the speed that you observed going greater than your 100 miles an hour speedometer?
Yes. So, well, just before the stop, or I should say at the stop, at the point of the stop, he began to merge to the right and slowed as if he saw me, as if he was
Okay.
yielding.
Did you hear what he said though?
The driver.
He said he was able to stop him 30 to 40
And then
seconds
After,
after, but yet, how could he have been going 110 miles? He was going 120 miles, so he said he had to catch up to him, so he had to be going faster. But he caught him within 30 to 40 seconds. That makes no sense to me. None.
Also utilizing that carpool
Anyway,
lane.
Throughout the entirety of this interaction with this car that you were following, was the status of the traffic in terms of how crowded the freeway was? Did it change?
because
Did
if
it
you're
thin?
catching
Did it
up
get
to
greater?
somebody
How
within
would you
30 to
describe it,
40
if at all?
seconds, y'all pretty
I
much
would,
going at the
again, I
at
would
the
describe
same
it as
exact
light to
speed.
moderate traffic, but there's lots of other people on the road, and we're now going past them over 100 miles per hour,
Objection.
changing lanes without.
Mr. Muhammad, there's an objection.
Yes, Your Honor.
Objection, non-responsive, motion to strike. He just said that, at first he said that the traffic was light, then he said there was a lot of people on the road. So which
Right.
is it? Was it traffic light, or was there a lot of people on the road? Because now
I understand your point.
you're
I'm
going
gonna-
back and forth.
I'm going to sustain the objection and strike after his description of the traffic on the roads as being light to moderate.
Thank you.
Yes, Your Honor. Moving on to the next part of the interaction.
He should have.
At some point, were you able to catch up again to the vehicle that you were following?
Yes.
And roughly, how long, if you can estimate, did it take to catch back up to that vehicle?
The first time you said 30 to 40 seconds.
I think it'd be best to get the best estimation off of. Do you want a time estimate?
See, now the first time he said
Like,
30 to
distance
45
estimation.
seconds. What the helpers?
How long it took me to catch up to him. I never lost sight of it. I was, even though he was going away, I still had visual of him. I was still a little bit more in the distance. So I guess I'm not 100% sure the question that you're or
You
exact question
answered
you're
it
trying to
already
do.
though. You said 30 to
Answer.
45
I
seconds the first
understand.
time.
Thank you. I'll be more clear.
Why
So,
is? Oh
you
man.
initially
He
mentioned
needs.
that the car seemed like it was going to yield, and then it had sped off.
I can't
At some point,
believe
were you
didn't
able to
object
get
that.
close enough to the vehicle again
Well, first, the second time.
to continue to try to be able to pull over?
Yes.
But at some point, did the vehicle eventually pull over?
Yes.
And roughly, if you can estimate, how long was it from the time that you started to accelerate again after the apparent attempt to pull over?
It would be an estimation, but because I could look it up specifically. There's record of the time log of how long the pursuit lasted, and then there's also the distance from where I initiated
Well,
to where
you
the
sound
end.
like you're not
I can
prepared.
speculate to it, but
Well,
I don't want to misquote.
I'll try to be a little more helpful with my question. I'm sorry.
Right.
Would you say it
To
was
go along with
minutes
what y'all
or,
planned.
Longer than 10 minutes, shorter than 10 minutes, roughly?
I would say short.
Sure, of course. It's the connection out here.
And
Or maybe they're
when the vehicle that you mentioned eventually did pull over, do you recall at what part of the freeway of State Route 57?
Yes, Tonner
Right.
Canyon Road. Yes, Tonner Canyon Road.
I'm sorry, Mr. Sanity, did you finish the question?
I'm sorry, I don't think I was loud enough. I'll repeat it again so we have a clear record. The question I was trying to ask was, what portion of State Route 57 did the pursuit ultimately end up terminating at?
Tonner Canyon Road.
And when the vehicle eventually did yield, how would you describe how it yielded on the freeway?
I would say that he pulled over to the right shoulder of the freeway.
And after that, what's the next thing that happened in the interaction?
We conducted a felony stop.
And when you say a felony stop, does that involve approaching the driver of the vehicle?
A felony stop is conducted, or the way it is conducted is by shouting commands either over our PA system or just in the air to get the driver to comply with commands to walk back to us.
Eventually, did the driver in this case comply with those commands?
Yes.
Okay. And did you get a chance to see the driver with your own two eyes?
Yes, I did.
Do you see that driver of that vehicle in court here today?
Yes, sir.
Just for the record, could you please identify where that driver is and the piece of clothing he's wearing?
Yes, sir. He's in the maroon shirt and he's to your right.
Objection. How do you know that the person you arrested was me? This case is over 2 years ago, and we're also wearing masks because of the pandemic.
Overrule the
I
objection.
mean,
Yes, Your Honor. And when you got the chance to see the driver personally, at some point did you have a conversation with the driver?
Hilarious.
Yes.
Were you able to ask the
I
driver
did.
what his name was?
I asked. Yes.
And did the driver tell you what his name was?
He did not. He related he did not want to answer my questions.
Okay. And after the involvement on the freeway, did you make attempts to identify the driver's name?
I did. I located a California driver's license.
Where did you locate that?
May I reference my report?
objection.
It's basis.
As far as the legal search and seizure, did you have any type of search and seizure or anything?
I'm sorry, did
from-
you have
from
any
the
type
get-
of what?
Did you have any type of search and seizure paperwork, probable cause to search and seize me?
So
You
that's
search-
the-
you
that's the
illegally-
basis-
Yeah, I was illegally search and seize. That's.
Sir, that's the basis of your motion.
Mhm.
That's something that for me to consider.
Mhm.
That's not an evidentiary basis to exclude necessarily his testimony. It would be
Okay.
to exclude what may have been found if it was deemed that the search was unlawful.
Okay.
I'm trying to get evidences to rule on that
All right,
motion.
okay.
I'm going to
All right.
overrule the objection.
Continue.
Would you like me to ask the question again? I'm sorry.
Well, to appease him, he was searched incident to arrest.
And
I'm sorry, what do you mean to appease him?
To appease his objection, he believed he was illegally searched, so I explained the type of search, the search incident to arrest.
Yeah, but
If
they
he's
didn't have a
familiar,
warrant.
then he would know it's legal standing.
No, it's not.
So, Officer Donald, let me just ask a couple clarifying questions so we have a clear record of the stop here. After you made contact and took the driver into custody, did you have an opportunity to look inside the vehicle to see if anyone else was inside?
Not myself, sir, but two other officers responded to the scene and cleared the vehicle.
I'm
And-
sorry, what was the last part?
Two other officers responded to the scene and cleared the vehicle.
Did you find out through conversation with either of those two officers who personally cleared the vehicle whether or not there was anyone else inside?
Yes.
Which officer was that?
Officer Pena and Officer Mercado.
When you say cleared the vehicle, can you just to be clear for the record, what does that mean?
Yes, sir. That is when the two officers approach the vehicle with guns drawn, and they make an approach on the side of the vehicle to see if there's any other occupants, including checking the trunk.
Okay. And was that check done in this case?
Yes.
After the driver was taken into custody, going back to my initial inquiry about the identification, where did you locate the driver's license that you mentioned earlier?
May I reference my report for that answer?
Is there a chance that reviewing your report might refresh your recollection?
Yes, sir.
As you sit there today, right now, can you recall exactly where it was?
Right now, I cannot recall exactly.
Okay. And you wrote a report in this case, is that correct?
Yes, sir.
Did you document the interaction and the of this incident that took place on February 29th, 2020?
I did.
Your Honor, with the court's permission, I would ask that the witness be allowed to attempt to refresh his recollection.
Okay.
I only have one more objection, Your Honor, and it's only for my time, my 2 hours that I asked for. Is this counting toward my 2-hour time limit for my hearing and my motions, or is this separate?
Okay, let's call a timeout while he's refreshing his
That's fine.
recollection, and we can reconvene. Mr. Davis, when I looked at the motions that you filed, I did see what your time estimates were. I
Okay.
think for your motion to one motion was an hour, the other motion was 2 hours, and forgive me, I can't remember what the estimate was for the third. I was told that the time estimate for the preliminary hearing was 2 hours. Then I got a revised time estimate, which, if my math was correct, the revised time estimate, and again, I apologize if I presumed incorrectly. I presumed that this was a joint time estimate because it was requested when both you gentlemen were in the courtroom. I was told the revised time estimate for everything was 2.25 hours.
2.25?
Yes, but let me tell you this, Mr. Davis, to the extent that you're concerned that this is being used against your time. I personally use those time estimates just so that I can plan the rest of my day and the other cases on my calendar. I don't hold anybody to those time estimates.
Right.
It takes as long as it takes to get it done. Okay, so you don't need to worry about, is this counting against my time?
Okay. All right.
We're gonna keep going until we're done.
Thank you.
Okay, no problem.
All right.
Mr. Sanity, you may resume.
Yes, Your Honor.
I think she's gonna
Officer
rule.
Donald,
I
is
think
your
she's
recollection
gonna-
refreshed after reviewing your report?
Yes.
Okay, and so where did you locate the driver's license that you mentioned earlier?
So my report doesn't specify, so I don't know which pocket or if it was in a wallet or free of a wallet, but I located it on his person.
Okay, so the just to be clear, the driver's license was
Valid.
on the person of the individual that you had pulled over.
Yes.
And when you did you chance to look at the driver's license with your own two eyes?
Yes.
Did you see a picture on there?
Yes.
Did you see a name?
Yes.
Was the picture on the driver's license the same picture of the individual that was driving the car?
It appeared to be so. Yes.
And did the description,
He said
the
appeared
biological
to be.
descriptors of height, weight, hair color, eye color, were all those present on the driver's license as well?
Yes.
Did all those match the description of the individual that you pulled over driving the car?
It appeared so. Yes.
Objection.
This is,
They keep in the definitions and the words that they're using. They keep saying the driver. There's no proof that I was actually driving. The legal definition for driving is someone who drives a motor vehicle engaging in commerce. So at the time of the alleged offense, I was not engaging in any commerce. Therefore, I was not actually driving. I was traveling under common law. I just want to enter that in for the record.
objection is overruled.
Damn.
Yes, Your Honor.
She's saying
I think
overruled.
where I left off was the biological descriptors on the driver's license. Did they match the person that you had
She
pulled
looked
over
like
that
that.
was driving the car?
They appeared so. Yes.
And what was the name of the individual that was associated with that driver's license?
Ryan Joseph Davis.
And after you had located the driver's license, what's the next thing what was the next step in your investigation?
After locating the driver's license and adjusting the handcuffs. Well, actually, that was prior. So it was adjusting the handcuffs, search, and then placing them in our patrol vehicle.
Okay, and at that point was the driver arrested?
Yes.
last couple of questions I had was regarding the component of the pursuit of where you had mentioned speed greater than 100 miles an hour.
Yes.
I think going back to the part where you believed the driver was pulling over and then he sped away. Are you familiar with what part I'm referring to?
Yes, sir.
You had mentioned your speedometer relative to the vehicle that was that you were in pursuit of. Can you explain how, if at all, you're able to estimate the speed or the range of the speed of the vehicle that you're following using your speedometer?
Yes, it would be called a bumper pace, and I have the vehicle calibrations if it's needed for evidence. But the way it is done is the patrol vehicles are calibrated. So if a vehicle is traveling the same speed, then it could be assumed if there's no distance increasing or decreasing, then it's assumed that my speedometer is the actual speed of the vehicle I'm in pursuit of. If the distance between the vehicle and my patrol vehicle is increasing, then it's assumed they're going faster than what my speedometer reads.
And so you had mentioned at one point during this part of the pursuit, you looked down at your speedometer and it was over 100?
It was 110.
And at that moment, did you have a chance to look and see the direction or if the vehicle you were following was gaining distance or you were closing in?
Yes, it was gaining distance.
Okay. And have you been trained on how to use this technique for estimating speeds of vehicles on highways?
Yes.
What kind of training is that?
I have, apart from the academy training and FTO training, with our field training officer, is FTO. I also have the post-certified radar operator course, which includes the visual estimation of 50 moving and 50 standstill, and then verifying with a radar device, and then also the post-certified LiDAR operator course, which is same thing, only less vehicles and 8 hours.
And did you successfully complete these courses that you had mentioned?
All of them, yes.
And based on the training and your experience, are you able to make a determination of whether or not that vehicle is traveling greater than the 110 miles an hour that you'd referenced earlier?
Yes.
And just to be clear, what is that?
Can you repeat that?
I think I'll clear that up. Sorry. Based on your background, your training, and your experience, and with regard to this technique for estimating speed, the moment you looked down at your speedometer and saw your vehicle was 110 miles per hour during the pursuit, and you saw the vehicle that you were in pursuit of gaining distance on you, are you able to determine that the vehicle is traveling greater than 110 miles per hour?
Oh, yes. Yes.
Excuse me. I just want to step and go use the restaurant real quick if I could. A few minutes, or less, maybe a minute.
You're asking for a recess?
Yeah, just a quick restaurant break.
We'll take a brief 5-minute recess.
Yes, Your Honor.
She seems so annoyed. What do you think?
Yeah.
You think